today we're gonna be looking at the very first appearance of the Creature Commandos from DC Comics. They first appeared in Weird War Tales, #93.
Okay.
And it's a really interesting story because it is kind of a blend of war and horror with some, really creative monster designs.
Oh, very cool.
So before we jump into the story itself,
Okay.
I think it's worth talking about the creative team behind it.
Sure.
We've got DeMatteis on writing. And, he's a guy who has tackled everything from, like, the laugh-out-loud antics of Justice League International to, like, the really gut-wrenching drama of Kraven's Last Hunt over in the Spider-Man world. So what I think is so interesting about DeMatteis is, like, his range. He can make you last 1 minute and then have you on the edge of your seat the next.
Absolutely.
And you see that range on full display in Weird War Tales, like 93, because he blends these, like, horrors of war with these fantastical monster elements.
Yeah.
And somehow makes it work.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah. And then we have the art by Pat Broderick, who, brought his, like, signature, really detailed style to books like Micronauts and Alpha Flight.
Okay.
And you can really see, like, his meticulous attention to detail in how he portrays these creature commandos.
Yeah.
Particularly, like, the way that he balances their, like, monstrous features with these surprisingly human expressions.
I see.
Yeah.
It's so important for the story.
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't shy away from, like, the grotesque,
Right.
but he manages to, like, infuse these characters with, a certain pathos.
Exactly. Yeah. It's this combination of, like, horror and humanity that really draws you in.
I can see that. We've talked a lot about DeMatteis and Broderick.
Right.
But let's not forget the contributions of inker John Solardo, a veteran artist who brought his own unique style to the book.
Yeah. I mean, Solardo's inks add this incredible depth and texture to Broderick's pencils.
Yeah, you can really see his experience in the way he handles the details, the shadows, the overall mood of the piece. He doesn't, like, overpower Broderick's art, but rather complements it perfectly, creating this, like, gritty, visceral world that really pulls you in.
It's that visual synergy between the writer, the penciler, and the inker that elevates this book beyond just, like, a typical war comic. So let's jump into the story itself.
Okay.
And let me tell you, it starts off with a bang.
Okay.
Or maybe more of, like, a chilling whisper.
Okay.
We're introduced to Death, personified as this, like, creepy, terrible tailor who's stitching together uniforms from the remains of fallen soldiers.
That's dark.
Yeah, it's a really powerful opening that instantly sets the tone for the entire story.
Wow.
Like, it's grim, it's unsettling, and it immediately lets you know that this isn't your typical war comic.
Yeah, no kidding.
Right off the bat, DeMatteis throws us into this world where death is this, like, constant presence.
Yeah.
This character in itself.
Right.
Even amidst these, like, fantastical elements.
Yeah, and it also introduces this theme of dehumanization.
Right.
Which, like, runs throughout the whole story, War, by its very nature, reduces individuals to, like, statistics, to bodies, to uniforms. And that's what, like, Death the Terrible Tailor represents in this opening scene.
Yeah, that's a really insightful point.
Thanks.
And it definitely sets the stage for the moral complexities that DeMatteis is going to explore as we move forward.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
and speaking of moral complexities, we have to talk about Project M.
Okay.
This top secret U.S. military experiment to create monster soldiers. Like, imagine the irony fighting Nazi inhumanity with, monsters.
Yeah, the story doesn't really shy away from these ethical dilemmas. It forces you to ask, like, what makes a monster? Is it just their appearance?
Right.
Or is it the actions that they choose to take?
That's the question, isn't it? Yeah. And it's one that's, like, particularly relevant in the context of war. Yeah. Where the lines between, good and evil, hero and villain can become blurred.
Okay. So we've got this, like, morally ambiguous premise, this haunting opening scene.
Right.
Now, let's meet the Creature Commandos themselves.
Okay.
They're a memorable bunch.
Oh, I bet.
First up, we've got Warren Griffith.
All right.
And imagine, like, a regular farm boy just living his life, and suddenly, bam!
Oh, no.
Lycanthropy. transforms him into a werewolf.
That's quite a change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the question that DeMatteis seems to be asking is, how does this transformation affect his personality?
Right.
Is there still a human struggling to break free from this beast within?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
You know, Griffith represents this, like, primal fear of the uncontrollable, the beast within us all.
Yeah.
But he also embodies, like, this struggle for control, this desire to, like, hold on to his humanity, even as he's being consumed by this monstrous force.
It's like he's constantly at war with himself.
Exactly.
Which I guess makes him the perfect soldier
I guess so.
for this kind of mission.
And that internal conflict makes him a much more interesting, complex character than just mindless monster.
Then we have Sergeant Vincent Velcro.
Okay.
A criminal. Given vampiric powers. You can already see the ethical dilemmas piling up here.
Right. Velcro is a great example of how this story plays with our expectations. You know, we're conditioned to see vampires as villains.
Right.
But here he is fighting for, supposedly, a just cause. But of course, it's not that simple.
Yeah.
He's constantly battling his bloodlust, struggling to reconcile his, like, monstrous nature with his desire to do good.
And his character really makes you think about those moral gray areas, especially in a wartime setting.
Right.
He's got this incredible strength and speed.
Yeah.
But he's also a predator at his core.
Right.
So how do you control a weapon that is fundamentally driven by its primal instincts?
That's a great point.
Yeah.
And you can't overlook the symbolism of his name, Velcro.
Yeah.
He's clinging to humanity, trying to connect with it.
Yeah.
Even as his nature pushes him away.
That's a great observation.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, it's like DeMatteis is constantly weaving these little details and layers of meaning into the story.
He really is.
Yeah. So then we move on to Private Elliot.
Okay.
Lucky Taylor.
All right.
A soldier who's been pieced back together.
Oh, wow.
After being blown apart by a landmine.
Oh, my God.
Talk about...
That's brutal.
A walking embodiment of war's brutality.
Right.
He's basically Frankenstein's monster. This collection of spare parts brought back to life.
That's intense.
Yeah. But is he a hero?
Yeah.
Is he a victim?
Right.
Or something in between?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Lucky's story highlights the physical and psychological toll that war takes on its participants. Yeah. He's like a visual representation of how conflict can, like, shatter lives and leave behind scars that never fully heal.
And he raises all these questions about what it means to be human.
Absolutely.
You know, is he still a person?
Yeah.
Even though his body has been so drastically altered. Does he have a soul?
I mean, these are questions that science fiction has been grappling with centuries.
Yeah.
But they take on, like, a new urgency in the context of war.
And I think DeMatteis does a great job of not providing easy answers. You know, he just presents us with these complex characters and lets us grapple with the implications ourselves.
I like that.
There's the leader of this unusual squad, Lieutenant Matthew Shreve. He's the only fully human member of the team, which makes him kind of an interesting counterpoint to the others. You know, he almost represents that traditional by-the-book
military mindset.
Yeah, he's focused on the mission.
Yeah.
He's focused on winning the war.
Right.
Even if it means using these unconventional and some might say morally questionable weapons.
Exactly. He embodies, like, the military-industrial complex. You know, this system that seeks to control and weaponize anything and anyone it deems useful.
Yeah.
And his interactions with the Creature Commandos highlight the tension between their, like, monstrous nature and his desire to, like, maintain order and discipline.
Right. So we've got this, like, clash of personalities, this ethical tug of war happening within the team itself. It's not just a straightforward good guys versus bad guys scenario.
Not at all.
And that complexity is what makes the story so compelling.
Yeah, I agree.
So the team is assembled.
Okay.
The stage is set. And now they're sent on a mission to infiltrate a Nazi castle. Where some seriously sinister experiments are going down. Classic comic book trope. Hidden Nazi science, maybe even a little bit of the occult thrown in.
For good measure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even though it's this, like, familiar trope, DeMatteis uses it to explore some really interesting ideas about the nature of war and the lengths that people will go to achieve victory. He's saying that, like, both sides in a conflict can become so obsessed with winning that they lose sight of their humanity.
Absolutely.
And that's where the Creature Commandos come in.
Okay.
They're the ultimate wild card.
Yeah.
The embodiment of this chaotic force that can, disrupt the carefully laid plans of both sides.
Okay, so the Commandos are in this Nazi castle. Tensions are high. What happens next?
Well, it wouldn't be a war comic without some action, would it? And let me tell you, this mission quickly devolves into a full-blown monster mash.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, we see Velcro using his vampiric powers to, tear through enemies.
Griffith goes full-on werewolf.
Oh, wow.
Unleashing this raw primal fury.
That's intense.
And lucky. Well, he's basically an unstoppable force of nature. It's brutal, it's chaotic, and Broderick's art really shines in these scenes.
Yeah.
He captures the monstrous abilities of the Creature Commandos in all their gory glory.
But it's not just, mindless violence.
Right.
DeMatteis uses these action sequences to highlight the dehumanizing effects of war.
Right. It's like he's showing us that even when fighting for a supposedly just cause war can turn even the most well-intentioned individuals into monsters.
Absolutely. And speaking of monsters, the Commandos uncover the Nazis' plot.
Okay.
And it's a doozy.
What is it?
They're building android duplicates of Allied leaders. Like Roosevelt. Really? Churchill, Stalin.
Okay, now that's just creepy.
Yeah.
Imagine these perfect robotic copies infiltrating the highest levels of government.
It's a brilliant plot point because it taps into those real-world anxieties about, propaganda and deception during wartime.
Like, who can you trust when reality itself can be manipulated?
Exactly.
Yeah. They've uncovered this sinister plot.
Yeah.
Tensions are running high, and things are about to get even more complicated.
Especially between Shreve and the Commandos.
Oh, how so?
Well, Shreve is so focused on the mission, on completing the objective, that he shows, little regard for their well-being.
Yeah, he's almost treating them like disposable weapons rather than soldiers under his command.
And that callous disregard for their humanity really starts to grate on the Commandos. And it also raises questions about Shreve's leadership. Is he truly in control?
Right.
Or is he just making things worse by pushing the Commandos too far?
Yeah, these are questions that DeMatteis doesn't really shy away from.
Yeah.
He's constantly challenging us to think about these ethical implications of this whole scenario.
And it all culminates in this, dramatic escape as the Nazi castle explodes, taking the android plot down with it.
So they stop the Nazis.
Yeah, but even in victory, the scars remain.
Yeah. So we've got this incredible blend of horror and war themes.
Yeah.
A team of unlikely heroes who challenge our perceptions of what it means to be a monster.
Exactly.
And a story that dives headfirst into these morally gray areas.
Yeah, Weird War Tales 93 isn't just a comic book.
Yeah.
It's an exploration of the human condition.
Right.
Set against the backdrop of one of history's most devastating conflicts.
And it raises a lot of questions about the nature of war.
Yeah.
The ethics of weaponizing monsters and the search for identity and belonging.
Absolutely.
In a world that often seeks to divide us.
Yeah.
They force us to confront these really uncomfortable truths about war, about humanity, about the monsters that we create, both literally and figuratively.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
From the creators to the characters, from the action to the themes.
Right.
And I hope we've given you a new appreciation for this, unusual corner of the DC universe.
Yeah, the Creature Commandos are a fascinating and complex team.
Absolutely.
And their story is one that continues to resonate with readers decades later. So thanks for joining us on this journey.
Thanks, everyone.
And we'll see you next time.
See ya.